The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you, my thoughts are with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rolla, clinical psychologist, and today I want to talk to you about what to do if you feel that your marriage is irretrievably broken. Before I continue with this topic, I want you to please subscribe, press the notification bell so that you have immediate access to my videos. Also, I would love you to follow me on social media at Ask Dr. Rolla, AskDrRolla. We live in a time, especially even before, but even after the COVID-19 pandemic, we live in a time when relationships are under a lot of pressure. There's so much stress. There was stress before, and there's been a lot of stress after. With bereavement, people have lost family members. With COVID-19, many people were not able to grieve their family, the loss of their family members in a way that is healthy. They went to a funeral service, there were just a few people there. And people lost their jobs. The whole sense of well-being, our sense of well-being as people was shaken, was threatened. Coupled with homeschooling, adjusting to adult children who may be coming back home, so many factors have come into play that can make it difficult for any marriage. If a marriage was somewhat fragile in their communication prior to COVID or struggling in some areas, they may have been able to get along just okay. But when pressure comes, the vulnerabilities in the marriage becomes much more exaggerated. And that's why I don't believe that COVID could end somebody's marriage, but COVID could have added stress that could have increased the risk of the marriage ending. It is important for you to know that something being irretrievably broken is a legal term. What they say, they use that term in the family court system here in the US to indicate that one or more of the parties believes that the relationship, the marriage, is beyond repair. And there are cases in which that could be. If there's physical danger. I remember a young lady that was referred to me to talk to like about 2 years ago. And I spoke to her and just kind of did, my question and answer, just somebody I know, not as my patient, but I'll still be asking questions as if I'm doing a diagnostic interview. She doesn't know that. But within a few minutes of talking to her, I thought, oh my goodness, this lady needs to be in a shelter like now. She needs to get those kids out and go to a shelter in an undisclosed location because of the extent of the abuse that she has endured. Not just what was going on at the time she was talking to me, but had been going on for so many years. And a lot of it had been hidden from everyone around her, including her family. So when she started to even talk about it, her abusive husband saw that as a taboo and was ready to silence her. Any kind of abuse, economic abuse, isolation, physical, the husband engaged in it all. That family is not the family I'm talking about today. That's not the marriage I'm talking about today. When people are not safe and their life is in danger, these rules don't apply. And if they apply, the person who is applying it, trying to save an abusive marriage, is going to put themselves under more control from the person who is abusive. They're not going to respond appropriately to this. Another case that comes to mind is a man who had been married as well for a very long time, talking to me about his marriage and really showing that desire to reconcile with his spouse. And this man is somebody who is a devout Christian and said, whatever's gone on, I still want to be with my spouse. I still want to forgive her. I still love her. And the way I knew he loved her, he was talking about how he met her and how much he did to win her over. I could feel that I could hear that in his voice. It was a telephone call. And I could hear that sincerity. But this person's wife had reported him and accused him in such a way that involved the police. And what was reported to the police wasn't entirely accurate. That could really get him in trouble legally. So I asked this man a question like, did your spouse maybe apologize or acknowledge that they may or has overreacted or said something that could get you in some serious trouble because of the police involvement? He said no. Did they ever acknowledge that they misrepresented who you are in the interaction with the police? No. I told him, you better be careful. The next time this person makes a comment or says something else to the police, you could be in prison. I'm not there to tell him what to do with his marriage, but when somebody wants you locked up for something you did not do or setting you up to have a criminal case, that is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people that have had some relative peace, some success, accomplished some things, had ups and downs, but really still see that there's some things that they can work with. And that is the persons and the couples and the families that I'm talking about. Talking about today. I was one person that believed that my marriage was not beyond repair. And when we went in for mediation and the mediator did some interviewing, he was actually kind of surprised that we were divorcing. That validated my thought pattern that there were things that could be repaired. And that also could be not because of my faith, but also because of my training. Having worked with so many people and marriages and couples who've gone through some serious trauma, I didn't minimize my challenges, but I knew we hadn't gone through that. And for that reason, I had hope. Yes, that marriage did not succeed, did not survive, but there's some powerful things that you and I can do to increase the likelihood that your marriage, powerful things that you can do, not you and I, can do to increase the likelihood that your marriage will last. And if, God forbid, your marriage does not last, you can still leave that with a sense that you've done what you can, right, to help the relationship. And that even matures you beyond what you've experienced. If the marriage survives, you're growing together. If it doesn't, like I said, God forbid, you're still growing. And you're giving yourself the best chance, even if a divorce, to reconcile again. Or to at least move on in life with limited baggage, which, honest to God, is a big deal. It feels like fall out here. It's October. It's in October, the first day in October, but it feels like fall, and it's so beautiful. Beautiful. So let me talk to you about what to do, even though it feels like there's nothing else to improve. I want you to watch what you say. Whether you're a man or a woman, watch what you say. How do you watch what you say? By using fewer words. When you're happy with somebody and you're getting along with them, it's easy to use a lot of words and not be misunderstood. But when a relationship is under constant pressure, it may be helpful to be a little bit more editorial in your communication. This doesn't mean that you're being fake. I've heard people say, like, I gotta say how I feel. Honey, you can't say how you feel in its entirety all the time. And yes, you can. But again, why make something worse than it needs to be? Say what you need to say with fewer words, which means that before you broach a conversation with your spouse, who you're having a difficult relationship with, plan what you are going to say. As much as possible, try to be calm. If you were not in that marriage with your husband or your wife, and you were looking from the outside in, how would you judge you. That could be a good way for you to examine how you are communicating. Focus on the present moment in terms of your communication. You may have big issues that you need to address, but focus on the little problems now, for now. If the bigger issues are causing so much of a contention, then let what you say be focused more on issues that you can handle. This main thing I'm talking to you about, this main point I'm talking to you about now, is about how you communicate verbally and non-verbally. When the person does something for you, even if it's something that they always had to do or you've always expected them to do, thank them. Thank you for bringing in the trash. Thank you for cooking dinner. Thank you for picking up the children. Show kindness even though you're mad, even though you're angry. Begin to distance yourself somewhat from the intensity of that emotion that is kind of being the theme, being the main issue, themes in the discussions you've had recently, and step back a little to just do what is possible now to maintain the peace. Again, this is only going to be a good idea if there's no abuse in the family. I'm going to ask you to watch how you use technology when you're trying to help a marriage to heal. I am totally against people living together, and I've talked to couples like this, living together in the same house and communicating primarily by text. Don't talk to their husband, don't talk to their wife, but can you pick me up at the store? Can you pick up our daughter? No. Not to say that technology is not good, but when we use technology that way and texting in that marriage, a marriage that is going through tremendous stress, we're avoiding the opportunity to interact, is increasing isolation in the marriage. And that is not a good thing. If you want me to do something let me go back on this again. If your spouse wants you to do something, to take your daughter somewhere, they should ask you verbally. Even if you guys are mad with each other, you are continuing communication and demonstrating a need for each other, even though there's a lot of friction in the marriage. So watch how you use texting. Also watch how you use emails. I say this because I did tons of child custody evaluations for couples who have been through a lot of challenges in their marriage, and now they can't agree on visitation and divorce. And one thing that stood out for me, it was kind of scary, was the amount of negative emails and texts that these couples were exchanging. It was increasing the intensity of their pain. It was worsening the problem. Even if the relationship is not in a good place, don't make it worse by saying bad things that you've already said to them before, repeating it. You don't want to keep rubbing salt into the wound of your spouse. You really don't. And that does not mean that you are looking away or denying the problem. But sometimes when we can't handle a big problem, the most resourceful and powerful thing to do is do what we can handle now, and then give ourselves room to revisit the issue at a time when we feel more comfortable. But communicating calmly, communicating with fewer words, and communicating with kindness. Kindness. When I mean kindness, you don't have to even say I love you. When somebody gives you something in the grocery store, don't you say thank you? Do the same. Do the same thing and begin to connect even though things are not going well. So I talked a little bit about how you communicate, right? Now let me talk about the mindset. This is a big deal if you're trying to help your marriage. Now let's go into the mindset one. You cannot change another person. That in itself, if you kind of let that sit with you, let that thought marinate. No matter how powerful you are, yes, you made a vow to each other and he's your husband and She's your wife, but you are not in that person's head and their mind, and you cannot change them. But this is what you can do. You can create a situation, create an environment to increase the likelihood that they will change. Let that become your focus. Let that become your priority. So nagging about it, even if you have to talk about it, like I said before, use few words. Create the environment. If you do not want somebody to keep calling you names or to make threats to leave, then do not corner them in a space in the house and tell them that they can't get out of the room until you're done talking, and you've been talking for about 20 minutes. Create an environment for them to feel that the decision to change is theirs, even though you want them to change. It's a roundabout way to give that person an incentive to change. What I also like about this in terms of your mindset too is that the other person over time will begin to see that you are making decisions in line with what you're also expecting them to do. That means that your mindset that you cannot change them also translates into the mindset that you can change yourself. And so you're consciously beginning to do what you can to make the changes, no matter how little. You may be doing so well in your marriage already, and the other person may even be the bigger issue, but whatever your issue is, no matter how small it may seem to you, take care of that. And that creates an environment where the other person is beginning to change, if they want to. If they don't change, it will not be because you are stifling them, or you are making it more difficult, or you're like kind of feeding into the negativity, or taking advantage of their weak points by saying things that could make them feel little. In order for you to better handle the emotional pain you're feeling, your mindset has to be such that you're not constantly going to be looking to somebody who you're not feeling as close to as the only person that can help you, even though you're down. I'm not saying that you should not tell your spouse that they've hurt you, but if there's emotional and physical distance in the relationship, they are not in a position to be able to handle the intensity of the pain you're feeling. Find a healthy space and some healthy outlets to be able to manage that with somebody who is healthy, who is looking out for your benefit and not against the peace of your marriage. So you have to lower your expectations as to how they can be available for you because of the emotional distance in the relationship. If the relationship is already fragile, you have to be realistic about your expectations of them. You may find that they may not be able to handle your pain, and you may consider that as rejection, but your relationship doesn't have the capacity right now to handle the intensity of the pain. You can say that you're being hurt, but in terms of the process, the rawness of your emotion, they may not be able to handle it. And that's important that you keep that in mind. You want to make sure that your mindset is such that in spite of the negativity going on in your relationship, you cannot afford to resurrect your baggage and open up deep wounds that you've had gone through. Even though the other person is not doing right by you, and you could be upset, you could be frustrated all the time or most of the time, they are not the only person through which you can get support. Begin to seek for support professionally, spiritually, and from people who may have gone through struggles like you as well, but are still motivated to help you to make the best of a difficult situation. Or they've worked through difficult times in their marriages and they work through that. They can help you and support you in that process. Now let's talk about the very last point. This is not an exhaustive list at all. The first one was how you communicate. The second one is your mindset. This third one is who else is engaged in your relationship. If you are having an affair, or there's somebody else you resurrected a relationship with from 20 years ago, and you're feeling good about connecting with them, you cannot help a relationship that is struggling. If you want to give your relationship a chance, any outsider involved must be invested in your relationship healing and you being given the freedom to work with what you have rather than them distracting you into something that is working against the marriage. Sometimes people will begin to connect in their marriages. People who are married, who are struggling, will begin to connect with friends who are against their partner. What do you think that friend is going to say? Encourage them to divorce their partner. I've heard so many stories of people being told, you just need to divorce him. And they'll tell me about what's going on in their marriage. And this person, I feel confused. I don't feel like I'm in love with this person. But then as we talk and we go over what they've done and the challenges they're currently facing, this is a solid marriage that is going through a difficult time. They do not need to be listening to those friends. Those friends are turning them away from their spouse, and it's going to cause more problems than ever. You have to give your marriage 100% attention. This means that if you cannot be, let me just go, something comes to mind quickly. I was watching an interview that Prince Charles did years ago when his relationship with Princess Diana had ended. And he was talking about, he started seeing Camilla Parker Bowles after his marriage had broken down. The fact that he had her as an option is a problem. That marriage did not stand a chance because he had Camilla Parker Bowles, the Queen Consort now, as a side person to connect with. He had already had a relationship with her before he got married. That is a bad example of somebody who's trying to help their marriage because they're engaging with somebody else they were connected, and that somebody else was even married at that time. Are you engaged with somebody as well who constantly tells you that you're doing perfect in your marriage and does not give you honest and constructive feedback about what you could do better? That's a problem. Because they see you as perfect and the other person as totally bad. And that makes you feel good because now you have an ally, but the reality is that they don't have the full picture. They're just solely depending on what you're telling them. Or are you lying about things that could be very dangerous in your marriage to portray that the marriage is going well? So everybody around you thinks the relationship is okay, but you're in trouble. That is a problem as well. Are you with somebody who is engaged in helping you fight for the marriage, encouraging you to do the right thing rather than doing tit for tat? That person is encouraging you to grow, and they're giving you the support that you need to be able to do the best you can, so that a marriage that has suffered and a marriage that could be deemed irretrievably broken could now be a marriage that could be healthy and successful. I want you to share this video with as many people as possible, and I want you to subscribe, press that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.